is the Council and Commission statements, EU cybersecurity and preparedness in the view of advanced AI systems. And I will start by giving the floor to Minister Rauner. Please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, President, honorable members, Commissioner. Artificial intelligence is rapidly becoming embedded into our economies as well as our security infrastructure. And advanced AI systems are transforming many sectors of our economy, from healthcare to transportation, finance, energy, education, and defense. When it comes to cybersecurity, the new generation of advanced AI systems are powerful assets and at the same time pose significant risks. That is to say, they can help us detect vulnerabilities and build up our defenses, but in the wrong hands, whether used by cyber criminals or hostile state actors, they can also endanger our systems. We already see this happening. AI is capable of identifying software vulnerabilities, automating sophisticated phishing attacks, and generating highly convincing disinformation. And there is no doubt that foreign malicious actors will make use of all tools at their disposal. In this regard, the European Union needs to be prepared and anticipate such threats. Therefore, I welcome this important and timely debate. It is vital that the European Union does not fall behind. To better monitor the deployment of advanced AI models and to address our potential security concerns, we need to be involved at an early stage. Cooperation with industry is key, not only to understand technological trends, but also to shape them in line with our values and security. The Council is following all developments closely. Regular discussions are taking place at technical level, ensuring that Member States remain both aligned and informed. The adoption of the Cyber Resilience Act was a key step in strengthening our cybersecurity. Its security by design approach will help reduce the number of software and hardware vulnerabilities. And it will also improve our reaction when vulnerabilities are only detected after a product has been released. We also welcome the proposal for a new cybersecurity package that the Commission put forward at the end of January this year. As Presidency, we are fully committed to continue advancing the discussions on the new Cybersecurity Act, which is part of this package, and on which discussions have significantly advanced during the Cyprus Presidency. The Presidency also plans a dedicated discussion on advanced AI systems and cybersecurity at a meeting of the Horizontal Working Party on Cyber Issues on the 1st of June. We are convinced that this proposed legislation will significantly contribute to strengthening our cybersecurity. Moreover, with the AI Act, we already have a solid legislative framework that will allow us to monitor the most powerful AI models that pose systemic risks. From August this year, we will be able to enforce transparency, documentation, and risk mitigation requirements, marking an important phase in the Act's implementation. But we also know that regulation alone is not enough. We must also strengthen our technological autonomy. Today, Europe remains highly dependent on external actors for critical cloud infrastructure, semiconductor supply chains, advanced computing resources, or cybersecurity tools. This dependency is occurring in the context of an increasingly strategic global competition around advanced AI capability. In this context, we look forward to the upcoming tech sovereignty package announced by the Commission. This will be an integral part of our overall strategic autonomy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. I just want to let you know that we have some technical issues. That's why you cannot ask for catch the eye, and that's why we don't count the minutes. But we are working on it and hope that it will be resolved very fast. Yet, I will give the floor now to the Commission and Executive Vice President Virkkunen, please. The floor is yours. It's working now. Good.
Honourable President, Presidency, honourable members, thank you for this opportunity for this very timely debate. Artificial intelligence can be used for good and for bad, and this applies also in cybersecurity. AI can equip cyber defenders with powerful tools to protect our critical infrastructure. At the same time, it poses grave risks when exploited by malicious actors. And this has now expanded to a new level and pace. These new frontier AI models possess high capabilities. They operate at the speed and level of automatization that outpaces traditional defensive cycles, at the same time also lowering significantly the barrier to entry for sophisticated attacks. The new concern is that vulnerabilities can be now identified at an unprecedented speed, reducing what would normally take months to hours, outpacing any human expertise in this field. We cannot be certain that this will be the same for fixing these vulnerabilities, and this is the risk we need to be prepared to address. In recent weeks, we have had the launch of such models for cybersecurity by two of the most advanced AI players from the US. And it is clear that we will see more and more that kind of models entering to the markets, also from other parts of the world. In the face of these challenges to cybersecurity, we need to do two things. First, we need to make sure that EU's robust legal framework is applied. And second, see if there are remaining issues that need to be addressed. First, under our AI Act, providers of the most advanced AI models, they must notify the Commission when they know they have such a model. They must also assess and mitigate systematic risks, including those arising from potential cyber misuse. Second, the NIS2 Directive requires critical infrastructure operators to take state-of-the-art measures to counter all cybersecurity risks, including those stemming from the malicious use of frontier AI. And third, the Cyber Resilience Act mandates manufacturers of hardware and software to test their products for vulnerabilities before placing them on the market and throughout their life cycle. It also requires timely fixing of any discovered vulnerabilities. The emergence of frontier AI models makes the swift transposition and implementation of this legal framework a key priority. The Commission will ensure that these frameworks are implemented as quickly as possible. And we will also make sure that their implementation fully addresses both the risks and the potential of AI. We have also in place cyber emergency mechanism, which can support preparedness, testing and scanning. And we will see how to deploy the EU Cyber Reserve for the purpose of preparedness as a matter of priority. We are working very closely with ENISA, our EU agency for cybersecurity, and national cybersecurity authorities in the member states on this matter. We have not waited for these models to appear to anticipate future cybersecurity capabilities. As a part of the upcoming technological sovereignty package, we will focus on ensuring the maintenance, security and integrity of our open source digital infrastructures that are coming under increased cybersecurity pressure resulting from the weaponization of AI. Our proposal for a revised Cybersecurity Act is designed precisely to equip ENISA and the Commission with the resources, powers and clarity of mandate that this new threat picture is requiring. ENISA is still a very small agency compared both with the national cybersecurity agencies but also with other security-related union agencies. We are also now proposing measures to ensure that information flows faster to those who need to act on it through early alerts and also collaboration on vulnerabilities. To ramp up our preparedness in the face of emerging AI threats, I will also present a list of actions in the coming weeks, bringing together the best EU expertise in AI and cybersecurity, and in doing so, we will work with the like-minded partners. Should more need to be done, we are certainly open to consider this. And this is where the European Parliament can play a very decisive role in the negotiations for the Cybersecurity Act, which we presented last January. Our proposal is a horizontal framework where we can anticipate these issues and where we need to give the EU Agency for Cybersecurity, ENISA, the powers and the scope of mandate they need to help our member states face these challenges. So we count on the European Parliament's support in this respect. The Commission has been engaging closely with the providers of the recently launched advanced AI models from the very start to better understand and also anticipate their cybersecurity capabilities and how these companies plan to address associated risks. In the current geopolitical context, where even the smallest vulnerability in our ICT supply chains can be exploited by malicious actors, AI-powered cyber defenses, they are essential to safeguarding our critical infrastructure. An essential first step in this is the rapid adoption of already available advanced cyber tools by public and private European organizations for their own cyber defense. There is no reason to wait, and this is crucial for preparing for the upcoming risks. But we do not want to remain dependent on others' cyber defense tools. We must do more to nurture our European cybersecurity ecosystem. We have already European cybersecurity companies who bolster impressive vulnerability discovery capabilities on par with the big US models. But these companies are still very small. And this is why Europe must invest in our own frontier AI and cybersecurity capabilities. We need to encourage and support European companies to develop advanced AI models, including open-weight models, so that in Europe we have the right conditions for sustainable cybersecurity business models to meet the challenges of today and tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Executive Vice President. And now we start with a round of speakers on behalf of the political groups, beginning with EPP and Mr. Wawrikewicz for 2 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Madam Minister, Madam Vice President, colleagues. Banking systems, rail transport, cloud services, and even water treatment facilities, all these services rely on digital systems that may be protected, may be tested, or attacked by AI. As we could hear today from the Commission and from the Council, AI is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can strengthen our defenses. It can detect patterns and weaknesses faster than any human operator. But the effectiveness of any tool depends on who uses it. And our enemies, our opponents, are learning very fast. A cyber attack today can stop production lines, paralyze transport, disrupt hospitals, expose personal data, and weaken citizens' trust in public institutions. Cybersecurity is a strategic, economic, and security priority as AI makes attacks faster, larger, and more autonomous. Advanced AI models can identify and exploit hidden software vulnerabilities. Therefore, mark a turning point for European cybersecurity. At stake are public safety, economic stability, and democratic resilience. Europe must act pragmatically. We need a dedicated EU strategy for AI-driven cyber threats. And critical infrastructure and sensitive public data must not be excessively dependent on non-European clouds and AI systems. This is not a call for isolation at all. Europe must remain open and innovative because this has always been our strategic strength. But openness without resilience would be considered as weakness. And technological sovereignty means that when it comes to the security of our citizens, Europe must be able to protect itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next speaker is on behalf of S&D, Ms. Mendes, for 2 minutes, please.
Obrigada, Senhora Presidente. Thank you very much, Madam President, Minister, Vice President. The main challenge facing the EU is adapting our societies to AI, ensuring that it benefits our democracies, it reduces our external dependencies, and ensures that we can have a European industrial digital strategy. In the S&D, we feel that this is what we have to do. We need action, we need a strategy. Action because we're talking about technological sovereignty in the European Union. AI is a threat as well because it's now underpinning our society and what holds our democracy up, all the systems holding it up. Critical infrastructure has to be defended. And our electoral systems, our public space also have to be defended because otherwise we'll see distrust towards the institutions, which is the whole point of these attacks. That's why we need to transform AI into a partner for our development and for our democracy, because European cybersecurity is an issue of democracy, of data protection, of security, and also competitiveness. That's why any strategy we develop should invest in European resources, in cybersecurity, in high-level cloud computing, protection of critical infrastructures. All of this is vital to protect consumers, to protect our economies, to protect our democracies. And I come back to this point. Digital sovereignty, what does that mean? A digital industrial strategy for Europe, combining regulation, protection of fundamental rights, protection of data, fostering alliances. What we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is really ensuring that our democracy is protected and our strategic digital autonomy is defended in Europe.
Next speaker is on behalf of PFE, Ms. Pokorna Yamanova, for 1.5 minutes, please.
Vážení kolegové, colleagues, cyber attacks, disinformation, abuse of AI, it's not a future threat, it's reality of today. We have to move away from the regulation itself to real resilience and preparedness of our states and regions. Real safety will only be proved when we actually are attacked. As a former regional governor, I have seen the destruction of a cyber attack. An attack against a hospital has put the medical system out of operation for a year. It was not just the patient's data, but this rescue system. Everyday lives were at threat. Energy networks, transport, water treatment, everything is at threat. A single attack can stop the entire state. We have, for example, tested blackout scenarios. It was costly, but it has shown how the state and businesses are really able to respond in a crisis. Europe has to focus on preparedness and resilience. Money should go to the protection of critical infrastructure, testing of cybersecurity, and practical exercises. They have to go to the most vulnerable regions that are lagging behind. Security is not just about defense in a war. It is the ability of society to continue function during cyber attacks, blackouts, and unfortunately, Europe is not prepared for this.
And the next speaker is on behalf of ECR, Mr. Kavidagna, for 1.5 minutes, please.
Grazie.
Thank you. Thank you very much, President. Today we're talking about something, security, national security, European security, and that is the issue of cybersecurity, increasingly very, very important for citizens, for individual citizens, for undertakings, but also for fundamental strategic sectors as well. I say this because it's not a simple digital issue. It's not something which is only has to do with IT. It is a fundamental issue in all spheres of life for our countries. And about a year ago, an attack on one of the servers in the region of Emilia-Romagna released all of the health data of individuals and thus the entire system was compromised. So you can imagine what sort of harm can be caused if a server which manages all health data of our citizens in Europe would be blocked or infiltrated in some way, shape, or form. This is an issue of national security. It is a situation of European security as well. And indeed, we have to raise our voices in order to invest in this direction, in order to make sure that that cybersecurity system is in place to protect all individuals, which are who, for example, go to the healthcare system for some sort of examination, for some sort of confidential interaction, and they want to make sure that that remains confidential. So indeed, we have to protect ourselves and protect all digital platforms. Thank you.
Rothhuis, for 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Chair. Dear Commissioner, we stand at the brink of a potential cyber bloodbath. AI models can now hack any system on a large scale and with the speed of light. Criminals, nation-states will use these AI models against our banks, our supermarkets, and all of our society will be tested. The good news is that these same AI models can also protect any system at scale and at the speed of light. So we have the choice between a cyber bloodbath or to use AI as a catalyst for better cybersecurity. But there is very limited time to build resilience, months at best. So I ask, dear Commissioner, to transform Cybersecurity Agency ENISA into a dedicated AI cybersecurity task force, not in a year, not in 6 years, 6 months, but next week. Immediately implement mandatory AI red teaming, develop and host AI-powered defenses. Establish a certification scheme for AI cybersecurity tools so businesses know what to trust. The choice is ours. The time to act is now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next speaker on behalf of the Greens is Ms. Gregorova for 1.5 minutes, please.
Dear colleagues, the danger of what we have learned from Mythos research and the Glasswind arrangement is that AI-assisted cyber operations may compress months of expert vulnerability research into days. For us Europeans, the new risk is not only technical, it is a strategic dependency. If the most capable defensive models and early warnings sit mainly with non-EU partners and their selected private collaborators, Europe may learn about vulnerabilities in its own critical infrastructure too late and on terms set by others. Would you keep your wealth and assets in such a jurisdiction? The right response to a Mythos-class threat is not first to write new legislation. It's to use the instruments Europe already has with far more urgency. I ask the Presidency, do we have reliable access to AI frontier models? If Europe lacks trusted defensive access to Mythos-class tools, we must pool our market power, regulatory power and security intelligence to obtain it at all costs ASAP. I also ask the Presidency to activate the integrated political crisis response for AI-driven cyber threats. This should get the Union to be ready when the next mass incident hits our hospitals or schools. That is what the framework was built for. Let us use it. And colleagues, the single market is not yet a single cyber market. Let's harmonise ambitiously. Let's lay the foundations for European cyber security. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next speaker on behalf of the Left Group is Mr. Botenga for 2 minutes, please.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la...
Thank you very much, Madam President, Madam Commissioner. Do you remember the news story from Financial Times a couple of weeks ago where Israel had hacked and taken over control of surveillance cameras in Tehran to then be able to carry out their murders on the ground? I found that extremely worrying because I can see many local authorities in towns and cities in Europe that use surveillance cameras and Israeli surveillance technology. So how can we say we're safe if the companies who are providing information for genocide are monitoring us? The same when it comes to espionage software. The EU is directly and indirectly funding companies such as NSO, Pegasus, Paragon. These are companies which are developing spy software for Israel, which are then used against our journalists, against our infrastructure. It's incredible that we are financing that. Doesn't that worry you just a little? And we can see today in France, we can see that the French are worried about potential scandals of misuse of power in Israeli interference in local elections in France. So that is what worries me, because already these are deployed on the EU territories. Palantir, it's a company that's belongs to a huge billionaire in America, talking about regressive, inferior cultures and superior ones. And then you think, well, the hospitals are not a problem, and we're giving him all our money. Well, what happens? Well, the European armies, NATO, Europol are concluding contracts with these people. How do you expect to be credible to any degree when you're talking about digital security, when you've got these people acting on our territory just because they're American or Israeli? There is no credibility in that, Commissioner. Thank you.
Speaker is Mr. Uhrig for 1 minute on behalf of ESN, please.
Colleagues, China every year produces about 5 million of technical engineers, and it's 600,000 in Europe. They're developing AI, smartphones, and humanoid robots, while in the EU, you're imposing gender studies at the universities and you're eliminating our industry by means of the Green Deal. That makes no sense. And now European bureaucrats want to teach us about cybersecurity. But sorry, but your famous application to verify age on socials was hacked within 2 minutes. And I cannot even imagine what disastrous consequences it would have if the digital wallet with digital euros was hacked. People could lose all their savings, all their money, and you wouldn't be able to stop this and to prevent this because you're leading Europe down the wrong path. We are lagging behind the US and China, and we want to change this. We want to invent in European companies in order to start them up and to get some competitiveness.
So that was the first round of speakers on behalf of political groups, and that's why I now will open up for the blue card and at the same time ask you to stick to your speaking time because we have a very long list of speakers ahead of us. And the next speaker is Ms. Sala for 1.5 minutes, please.
The debate over EU access to advanced AI is part of a deeper problem: our systemic dependency on non-EU hardware and software. There is clearly a lot of product hype in AI right now, but one thing should be clear to us. European tech sovereignty cannot only be a long-term aspiration, it needs clear action now. Sovereignty does not mean isolation. We must engage with like-minded international partners to make a genuine global consensus on advanced AI. We clearly need an alliance of values to start with. Yet, we cannot lead globally if we bring nothing to the table. Building our own capabilities is a matter of survival and resilience, as well as security and competitiveness. This House has high expectations on tech sovereignty package coming later this month, as well as public procurement initiative coming in July. It must deliver at least 3 concrete actions. First, new procurement rules that prioritize European sovereign tech solutions. Second, ease smartly on our regulatory burden for scaling critical technologies. Third, focus on concrete actions on harmonization of our single market and, of course, our capital markets union. Let's stop reacting in panic and only act when a crisis hits us and focus on concrete actions, spelling out the fact that we need to put our European companies first and make sure that we only do business with the US tech companies based on reciprocity, not on dangerous dependencies.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mr. Benifei for 1 minute, please.
A few weeks ago, an organisation hacked into student organisations and data sets. Black Bus, a Russian group in 2024, exposed millions of data from medical records in Italy. These aren't individual cases. These aren't science fiction. These are things that are happening now in Europe. And these are becoming more and more worrisome, more and more dangerous. The fact that Anthropic has developed Mythos, it's looking for vulnerabilities in organizations and in AI software already. We know that we need to have equivalent firepower. We need to have development immediately so that the AI office has resources and qualified staff and send out a clear political signal to deal with the vulnerabilities that are there. We have no time to lose.
The next speaker is Mr. Thionet for 2 minutes, please.
Affirmer que celui qui domine.
He who dominates AI will be the master of the world tomorrow. Well, maybe that's taking it too quickly, but those that don't dominate AI and master it will be dominated by those who develop the chain and inundate you with their services. We're seeing panic. The Anthropic Mythos could identify vulnerabilities in our systems. And people are increasingly worried about the future of AI in Europe. Hydroelectrics, nuclear power may not necessarily be safe as a result. We're not sure to what extent, though, they would be covered by what's being developed by Claude, for example, and Mythos. We need to work on sustainability. We need to ensure that we do develop nuclear because it's so much more sustainable than coal. We need an extra 400 gigawatts of electricity in Europe. We need massive production. Nuclear is a tool for generating electricity that we can use for running data centers and other things, and we welcome the fact that nuclear is returning to the continent in France and Italy, for example. The European Commission needs to admit that it's been beaten in its fight against nuclear power, which just plays into the hands of American groups. They know the next few decades will be decisive and we won't be able to make up the gap. If Europe is to master AI, we need to stop fighting nuclear and work with it.
Next speaker is Ms. Sydvo for 1 minute, please.
Dziękuję Pani Przewodnicząca, Szanowna Pani Komisarz.
Thank you. Madam Commissioner, colleagues, the European Union has actually committed a lot of errors because we over-regulated. As a result, we paralyzed our economy, our industry. That's why today we are losing competitiveness. However, there is one lesson that should be learned through this process. We can't have a situation now where in this race for the latest solutions as far as AI goes, EU is a loser. We definitely should try and do the utmost to keep up our competitive edge, to present new ideas on how to develop AI here in Europe. We do see the threats as well. Almost on a daily basis, we are unfortunately facing cyber attacks. So we have rules and principles in place to protect our citizens, our economy against these threats. But one thing that I wanted to mention at the end. There is a very thin line between liberty of speech, liberty of action, and paralyzing everyone with rules. The line is really thin. Thank you.
For 1 minute, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Minister, Commissioner. First,
We are urgently debating cybersecurity and preparedness in the EU today because we became suddenly aware that several new AI systems are especially good at detecting and exploiting system vulnerabilities like they were super hackers on steroids. But the real threat is, and has been for some time, less sophisticated and far more dangerous. The threat is not that AI now has super hacking capabilities. The real danger is the automation of cyber attacks on an unprecedented scale. By exploiting basic vulnerabilities and scaling them through automation, malicious actors, be they criminal or state actors, can now attack our infrastructure 24/7 at virtually zero cost. This is a cheap, automated assembly line of disruption. And dear colleagues, we know that our usual regulations, bureaucratic checklists will not defend us from this automatic cyber warfare. We need to have our own automated collective defense, and here's how to do it. First, we must enforce real-time cross-border threat sharing across the Union, and then we must adequately fund NISA to be an AI-driven continuous vulnerability patching institution. In other words, we must fight automated skill attacks with automated resistance in real time, and we need this tomorrow. But perhaps most importantly, we must be able to be the adults in a room and state clearly that those who treat AI development as an arm race are foolish, dangerous, and may lead to drastic consequences for humanity. The only sensible thing to do, as with the previous dangerous arms races, is to agree internationally on how to oversee the development of AI. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, we have a very, very long speakers list, so please try to stick to your speaking time. And the next speaker is Mr. Lagodinsky for 1.5 minutes, please.
Madam Vice President, both the Commission and the Council are missing the point. And the point is a new arms race has begun. Not with tanks, not with missiles, with algorithms. If real, Mythos is an algorithm of mass destruction, and it is unfolding now. And the line between civilian innovation and instruments of war is disappearing before our eyes. The same AI system that helps you to have algorithms to book your travels in the morning can attack hospitals, power grids, and military systems in the evening. EU must initiate a global AI governance regime to address the topic. And let's be frank, in cybersecurity, defense alone is not enough. Deterrence matters. The capability to strike back matters. The capability to make adversaries fear consequences matter. Frankly, the fact that you, Ms. Vice President, are not the Commissioner for Defense, and then the Commissioner for Defense is not you, is one of the greatest tragedies of our institutions, because Europe still thinks in silos while the threats against us are converging. We need a European Defence Union also for digital, a strategic command centre for Europe also for digital, a European Security Council ready to act. We need European AI defence troops and a European AI defence shield, built in Europe, powered by European technologies like Mistral, controlled by democracies. Because a continent that cannot defend itself and its borders, its digital borders, will not control its fate, and the time to act is now.
Thank you. Mr. Lagodinsky, there is a blue card. Do you want to accept it? It's from Mr. Stier. Seat 672, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I fully agree with your assessment that we should not think in silos. In that regard, there is a question when we need also more and more affordable energy. In that sense, will you support also from your perspective and from your group, for example, more utilization of nuclear energy in order to achieve all these goals that you have suggested?
I'm sure you would be happy. I'm sure you would be happy if I said yes, but I think we have other capabilities, the capabilities in renewable that are underused and underutilized now, and especially now during the Iran crisis. I wonder why so many are not addressing the obvious, and the obvious is that we missed a chance, we missed an opportunity to invest more into renewable, sun and wind, but also thermal and water. And then we would not be as vulnerable as we are now. That is the solution also for the energy problems that you're addressing.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Ms. Martins for 1.5 minutes, please.
Senhora Presidente.
Madam President, Madam Commissioner, the hard power of this century will be built on software. That's Palantir's manifesto. That was created by the CIA in 2003. And when talking about the AI, we have to look at that because what we're seeing is AI being used to bomb Iran over the last months. 2 big tech companies from the US have launched advanced AI models that can identify and attack vulnerabilities in all kinds of fields. The cyber system of grids, of hospitals and other structures are at risk. And we're seeing AI being used to fire workers, sometimes rehired, but at a lower salary rate. And we are seeing productivity gains in the economy, it's true, but we're also seeing a huge financial bubble and war. Now is the time to simplify and regulate. We also need ethical models, though, that are developed and based in Europe. We need R&D, which will focus on today's world. We need efficient regulators with more resources to inspect and to sanction. In the area of health, there is a possibility of potential to train doctors, and genetic and clinical data, though, needs to be protected. It's urgent that we make a choice. Security, freedom, democracy are at stake.
Accepted. It's from Ms. Grappini. Yeah, please. Ms. Grappini.
Semnalat foarte multe lucruri care voi vorbi în limba română.
I will be speaking Romanian.
Sorry. Okay. Ați semnalat.
You've mentioned very many issues regarding artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, and I would like to ask you. Now, the Commissioner was saying that, of course, it is not enough to have the technical side solved. We need to also see how to address the vulnerabilities. Do you believe that applying the law, the AI law, starting in August 2026 is a good idea? Are we ready? Is the internal market ready? Are we not going to be vulnerable? What do we need to do extra in order to not depend on imports? What do we need to do to build in Europe all the software and the hardware that we need in order to have a real cybernetic defense? Thank you.
Muito obrigada. Thank you for the question. We're not prepared in Europe, and that's why I defend the fact that we must develop AI models of our own, using ethical, democratic, environmental criteria, which we think are important because they will protect our democracy too. And there's a Portuguese saying that the end of the world is just around the corner. I'd say we're very behind here.
A minute, please.
In cyberspace, Europe is vulnerable because it overregulates instead of development. We need our own cyber industry with AI and chip production. As long as our critical data are stored by American cloud providers, as long as the SMEs cannot pay for overregulation, as long as big tech is above the law and is not accountable, Europe stays a tiny player. We need close cooperation among member states without imperial supervision. Cyber defense is a matter of national security, but the Commission cannot encroach in member state competence. Moreover, the Commission, with the excuse of cyber defense, pursues an ideological war against free speech. Fact-checkers who are claimed to be independent are funded by the Commission, but how can you be independent from your sponsor? Any ideas that are non-mainstream, patriotic, globalization-critical, family and pro-life are labeled as disinformation or extreme content, and their access is curbed in digital space. This is political influencing, a hacking of democracy. Instead of using cyber defense as a political weapon and virtual cordon sanitaires would be raised, we should focus on our own digital infrastructure, to create this, otherwise our competitiveness is over.
Much, and the next speaker is Mr. De Masi for 1 minute, please.
Madam President, artificial intelligence has a great deal of potential. The potential to dumb us down. Tech billionaires, algorithms are dumbing us down. They're turning children into digital zombies. In the US, the AI bubble is about to burst because of high energy prices. The capacity for cooling is problematic. Automated weapons systems are a huge problem under AI. And let's not forget that AI doesn't release us from this danger of being dependent on outside companies outside the EU, because we're using Palantir, an American company that often says it is wants to establish a dictatorship of billionaires in the US, where the right wing of this House applauds them openly. We see companies such as Palantir, they should be blocked from access, otherwise we're going to wake up in a tech apocalypse.
Speaker is Mr. Cunha for 1.5 minutes, please.
Good morning. We're seeing AI transforming the way in which we live, work and communicate, but it's also altering the threats to the security of the EU. Today, the risks are not limited to traditional cyber attacks. AI systems can be used to automate attacks on a huge scale, manipulate information, and create credible deepfakes and exploit critical vulnerabilities with a speed that's unprecedented. Faced with this reality, Europe can't be naive. Cybersecurity has become a sovereignty issue, but the response shouldn't be blocking innovation. We need to foster safe, secure innovation, which is based on our democratic values. And that is what the European Union is trying to do through the AI Act. Regulate cyber resilience and AI. What we need now is to take this further, invest in European cyber defence capacity, reinforce cooperation amongst member states and guarantee that Europe is not dependent on external powers for critical capabilities. And we also need to look at the human impact of these threats, particularly on the most young, increasingly exposed to algorithmic influence and manipulation and exploitation online. AI will be a part of the future of European security. The question is, are we going to react to these risks or prepare Europe to lead this transformation through responsibility and trust? That would be the key to the future.
Next speaker is Mr. Lopez Aguilar for 1 minute, please.
Thank you, President.
Commissioner, when the AI Act was passed and the omnibus, for simplification purposes, that would all go hand in hand with the technological revolution. At the same time, AI, Mythos, Anthropos, OpenAI, a whole panoply of different new systems out there, creating fear, but working together with these new companies cannot lead us to any form of dependence. Quite the opposite. We have to understand that sovereignty here means protecting our principles and values, democratic control, transparency, respect for fundamental human rights. In other words, human supervision. So we have to strike a balance which is consistent with the values which are the cornerstone, of course, of this particular structure altogether of the European Union. It's to defend citizens, also to defend us at moments of war as well. So artificial intelligence cannot be allowed to infiltrate society and undermine us through our vulnerabilities. Thank you.
Az Európai Unió a digitális gyarmatosítás útján halad.
The European Union is well on its way
to digital colonization, but we're not colonizing others, we're being colonized. This has a defense, security, and economic aspect to it. The EU is very proud of having adopted the first regulation on AI. But we are not a leading power in AI, in coding, innovation, and other areas. We are lagging behind. The biggest tech firms have very few European ones among them. Digital innovation doesn't start in Europe. At best, we are copying services that we ourselves need, but even those are running on non-European hardware. We have been lagging behind for decades, which is clear in terms of AI models and also in data centers. This reduces our digital sovereignty. Due to a lack of time, I can only give you one example. We have about 1/4 of the number of data centers as the US, and these consume a lot of energy. The European electricity system has its limits, so we have to wait decades before a new data center can go functional. So the electricity grid and electricity prices are an obstacle to development. And of course, electricity is much cheaper in the US or in China. Our faulty, mistaken electricity strategy is causing us a lot of damage in terms of competitiveness and also in terms of cybersecurity. Without cheap energy, Europe is going to fall further behind.
Please, colleagues, the time. The next speaker is Ms. Donat-San for 1 minute, please.
Grazie, Presidente.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioner. The whole question of how ready we are to be prepared for an AI crisis is something that links into defence, into the economy, into personal safety, and indeed cyber safety as a whole. Faced with this increasingly complex picture and the hybrid nature of the threat, it's important to look to see what capabilities Europe should develop. And the fact that the US is doubling its productive capacity thanks to AI is news we received recently. So once again, we're saying that Europe's capacity is lagging behind the rest of the world. The independence of the capability to manage data and ensure cybernetic safety is something where Europe is too dependent on China in particular. I heard the threats about what's happening to Israel, but what about China? No one seems to be doubling down on that, and that's worrying.
That's good.
Commissaire, Minister.
Commissioner, Minister, it is nothing new that Europe is in the middle of a hybrid war. What's new, on the other hand, is that artificial intelligence have become the most important weapon of that war. It is being used to undermine our democracies through cyber attacks and attacks on critical infrastructure. What used to take a talented group of hackers months can now be carried out by someone without expertise in mere minutes. So we need to step up our efforts. Europe is far too unprepared. Commissioner, we need to improve our cybersecurity significantly. We need to improve and we need to have a common cyber defense. We need a cyber brigade, one might say, an actual brigade that can address these vulnerabilities and problems as they occur. We need to have a task force able to help member states identify vulnerabilities and address them. We need also to be able to collaborate across borders because that's what the criminals do. And we need, first and foremost, to realize that in order to effectively combat the threat that AI poses, we need to address it and do it together. Thank you.
Please.
If it is true what Anthropic claims, Mythos being able to detect all cybersecurity vulnerabilities, then it could pose a major risk if this AI system falls into the wrong hands. Even if half is true, it opens the door to major cyber attacks at scale. Think of banks being hacked, our transport systems being disrupted, and hospitals blacking out. And if we understand the experts correctly, Mythos is just the first model, but many will follow soon. With a US government that doesn't believe in regulating AI, we are apparently in the hands of Anthropic to decide whether they think the EU is a trustworthy partner, like Google. And Anthropic only putting red lines for their systems being used against American citizens doesn't give me much hope. And to be honest, just saying that we have the right systems in place also doesn't. Systems are only useful and only work if you use them, act swiftly, and with urgency. So, Commission, maybe the urgency you feel to deregulate and postpone tech rules, you could also channel towards the safety of our citizens and businesses, and also towards supporting the development of European AI. With cybersecurity capabilities that is created in line with democratic values. If we don't want our reliance on our cybersecurity in foreign hands and to be turned against us, we need to take bold decisions. Dare steering the type of innovation we want in Europe and make sure the money we are investing in European AI goes to benefit all Europeans and not another AI puppy video generator. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next speaker is Ms. Shaibi for 1.5 minutes, please.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, hospitals brought down by cyber attacks, surgical operations cancelled, citizens unable to use their phones, computers. That's not science fiction. It's happening in Besançon, in Antwerp, in Paris, with the offensive capacities of new models like ChatGPT 5.5, Claude, Mythos. That could become the norm tomorrow. There's going to be dozens of open source models available in a year with no guardrails. That would be great for looters, for malicious actors, but we could, in fact, use them to detect vulnerabilities before they're exploited. That is, if we are using these tools to defend our sovereignty. Question, should our data on armies, for example, should we give that to US companies that work with Donald Trump? I think, on the contrary, we should be supporting our companies like Mistral, which are currently developing solutions for sovereign cyber defense. We have the resources through procurement. Don't let's wait, though. Tomorrow, it'll be too late.
Thank you very much. And the next speaker is Ms. Knafel for 1.5 minutes, please.
On a piraté votre vie. Regardez ce que nous...
Look at what we have suffered as Europeans over the last 6 months. The income tax organisation has been pirating your information, the names of your children, your addresses, the internal ministry as well, with files on 6 million French citizens. A 15-year-old adolescent managed to hack into the state and produce passports, ID cards, and driver's licenses on an illegal basis on the black market. And then marriage contracts. All sorts of other files, including medical files, are now openly available for purchase on the internet. And what's worse of everything, a few weeks ago, Ursula von der Leyen put forward the European Age Verification app. 24 hours later, somebody hacked in and brought it down. So we can see robberies, burglaries, new types of crime, and the French are at the vanguard. So if you have Bitcoin, you're suspect. Why? Because the state wants you to give up all your information, your name, your details, and then can leak those data. In France, it's the state that's giving the details of victims to the criminals. All the time we're having to provide more information, more declarations. Over-regulation on a digital level has not just failed to protect us, it's chased away our entrepreneurs, innovators, and gives us a facade of security which is crumbling. Control or freedom? We choose liberty. Thank you.
The next speaker is Ms. Berg for 1 minute, please.
Guten Tag.
Good morning. It's those who feel themselves above the law, who usually believe regulations are not necessary, are now enthusiastic about EU cybersecurity in the face of advancing AI systems. It's touching to see that. And this is happening just as Anthropic is set to release a new software that can detect in a matter of moments vulnerability in any software, including European software. But the reason I really can't be so enthusiastic and welcome you among these security advocates is that you're not concerned with cybersecurity, which is used against citizens by police, by intelligence agencies. So vulnerabilities in security are vulnerabilities in security, but they can be exploited nonetheless, and they can be used to look into citizens' affairs. I'm just kidding. Backdoors that are only good, that are only for the good guys, can be an illusion. Thank you very much.
Guten Morgen, Frau Berg.
Good morning, Ms. Berg. Well, I think you had a more serious speech than Mr. Sonnenborn normally does, but I'm just wondering if your concerns that you've addressed about citizens, if you don't want to pursue the way things are going, how can you improve that sort of cyber protection for our citizens?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the particular question, but I'd like to say that something can be done in order to protect the security of individuals. In other words, we could promote European software. We could allow for peer-to-peer chats. We don't do that. We could allow for systems of security, higher systems, in order to deal with these various gaps. We've seen so many problems, for example, hacking of health information and so forth, and also things that facilitate espionage on the part of Americans. But nothing is done on that particular front. Here we could do a lot for European security systems. Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Chair, Madam Commissioner. I think everyone agrees here that AI's transformation and disruption potential is absolutely total. It is changing the way we wage war, and it will be decisive on how we actually live in peace in the coming, let's say, 50 years. The Commission, therefore, has this generational task to lay the foundations of what is our European life, but then in this digital world on steroids that we're all confronted with. It has to safeguard our democracies and our economies, to protect against the destructive forces, and to harness the potential, which also all of us can recognize. But Europe's voice is crucial between the godlike AI from the US and the Chinese totalitarian alternatives that we will be confronted with. And the question is not whether we do something, it's whether we are ready to provide an alternative that is actually being able to be that alternative. This means scaling, building and buying European. It's very clear. It also means thinking about the data we need to train our models. We are mass exporting our data to the US, and very soon also, and many of the younger people in Europe with their Temu apps, they're doing that to China. So if the Commission is still looking for new own resources, maybe an export tariff on our data is a good alternative to make the others pay for something that they really need, because I'm convinced that our data is the most valuable asset we have in Europe. It represents the value of our economy and of our values itself.
Thank you.
And it is something we need to monetize, if you want to say it in a very Gen Z way.
Thank you. Mr. Hutink, there is a blue card from Mr. Sieper. Do you want to take it? Mr. Sieper, this is the last one you get in this debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. President. Thank you, colleague, for accepting my blue card. You said in your speech that this is a generational task that the Commission is uptaking, and I could not agree more. So I was wondering, in your personal experience and in your personal opinion, do you think the generation that is on average in charge in the higher echelons of the Commission has the technical understanding to really pursue this endeavor? Thank you very much.
Thank you, colleague. Well, if anything, AI is confronting us with human imperfection, with how absolutely wrong we have been for centuries. So who tells us that the next Nobel Prize for Medicine will not go to an AI model? Yeah? And maybe even the next Peace Prize. And that's, I think, the crucial task we have as legislators, but we also need to be clear. We will not simply take up this challenge by updating an AI Act or by regulating our way out of this. This is a lot bigger than we can do only in this room. We need all the founders, we need the tech culture, and we need the young people to be involved.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And the next speaker is Ms. Guzenina for 1 minute, please.
Dear President, dear Commissioner, I think it's not exaggeration to say that we are living historical times. AI is affecting our societies in so many ways, including the nature of cyber warfare. Attacks are becoming faster, more autonomous, more precise, and harder to detect, but our infrastructure, our network, our weapon systems are vulnerable. This is not science fiction, this is reality we're living in. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea are using our weaknesses daily and attacking us and harming us. So Europe needs to step up, including in this House. So, dear colleagues, I have a suggestion. I believe that it is time that we establish a permanent committee on AI dedicated to monitoring developments, assessing risks, strengthening our preparedness, and ensuring Europe can act strategically instead of reactively. Many countries around the world have already done that, and I think it's time we do so also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next speaker is Ms. Joron for 2 minutes, please.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam Vice President, Madam Minister, you've just mentioned the Mythos risks prevails as well as other American companies. Since it was launched, Mythos has proven it's very powerful, and it could move away from the control of its creators, but it's not really a public threat. We do need to protect citizens, but you seem to be protecting Brussels from citizens too. Rather than commenting on American or Chinese progress, we should be investing hugely in AI here in Europe. Mistral's founder said last week, if you want to, you could invest $1 billion in R&D. In December, AI had already invested $14 billion. The real danger isn't just the models they develop, it's the dependency that Brussels organises. It's the dependency that Brussels organises, not to mention over-regulation, which is always more pushed forward than simplification. And I'll conclude with an example you're familiar with, which is comics. See, it wouldn't be so tragic. It could be very tragic, but we had a debate on at what point an image became a naked image and was illegal when talking about deep fakes. Europe really is not doing enough here. And really, let's look at the number of patents that were tabled in 2024. China, 50% of those, 16% the US, 5.4% lodged by Europe. If we're not at the table, we're on the menu. I'll use that sentence, even though I don't share it really with the owner, but there we go. Europe for din-dins.
Say that according to Rule 10, you're not allowed to show or display images at the rostrum. The next speaker is Mr. Solier for 1 minute, please.
Thank you very much, President. Commissioner, artificial intelligence is developing with great velocity, and we're going along at a very, very slow snail's pace. This is the problem, because if attacks are taking place instantaneously, our response is slow. And it is for this reason that we confront a very serious issue as far as cybersecurity, because it's not the number of administrative rules or regulations that we establish. The issue is to have a system that responds immediately to protect citizens and companies. We need technology investment capacity, operative capacity, technological capacity. It's not regulation that we need. And we need to have the ability also to provide that energy for all of this as well. Let's not forget that our technological sovereignty is at stake right now. We need a system which is a proportional system with digital capacity and technological speed, which is unprecedented, because artificial intelligence is not the future, it's today. And if Europe wants to be on the forefront, we have to be able to react quickly. It's not regulation, once again. Thank you.
Speaker is Mr. Ijabs for 1 minute, please.
Yes, Madam President, Madam Commissioner, Madam Minister, artificial intelligence is no longer a distant possibility. It is already reshaping our economies, our democracies, and our security, and powerful systems like the Anthropic's Mythos or OpenAI's GPT-5.5 Cyber demonstrate both the extraordinary promise and the serious risks of the frontier AI, and this is urgent, dear colleagues. We have to equip NISA with the tools necessary, and this is where we really need a dedicated AI cybersecurity strategy to counter those threats that are really threatening all aspects of our lives. AI models capable of advanced cyber operations should undergo mandatory safety testing before development. Companies developing frontier AI must prove that their systems are secure, transparent, and resistant to misuse. Certification schemes are necessary here. Second, the EU should establish strict safeguards for high-risk AI. Models with offensive cyber capabilities must not be freely accessible without oversight. And last but not least, Europe must invest in its own AI ecosystem. If we really entirely depend on foreign technology giants, we are risking losing our economic competitiveness and digital sovereignty. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Ms. Giese for 1 minute, please.
Frau Präsidentin.
Madam President, who's actually informed us about the dangers of Anthropic's Mythos? More than 50 American companies have actually said this. There's been a public statement as well. But the potential risk of Mythos is not just a risk to American citizens and companies, but us in Europe as well. But the European Union hasn't done anything. Radio silence. No access to the model to even check how dangerous it actually is and to see how European citizens can be protected. And that shows two things. First of all, how fatal it was to delay the application of the AI Act through the omnibus. How do we expect Europe to be taken seriously when we give in to any kind of image of science fiction nature? Secondly, we need better defence in Europe. Technological sovereignty is absolutely essential. Let us move in that direction. Let us set aside the resources to do that, as many colleagues have asked that. Let's push forward with the security package as well, then we can implement it.
And the next speaker is Ms. Kontura for 1.5 minutes, please.
The European Union is facing a new era, that is an era of cyber threats. Artificial intelligence systems can identify and exploit the weaknesses to an extent that simply didn't exist before. But Europe is not ready to face this particular reality. Public services, infrastructure, citizens, and institutions of a democratic nature are under threat. European cybersecurity depends on technologies and on companies from third countries. This actually limits European control, and of course it limits strategic economy as well. We need a new European strategy which will ensure digital sovereignty and timely access to critical AI systems, to be able to assess any threats that exist out there and to confront them. It's necessary to have guidelines to support public and private sector in order to deal with this particular situation right now where we are using outdated software. We need to move forward with the Cyber Resilience Act. We have to deal with the regulatory security gaps that have been reviewed within the framework of the Cybersecurity Act. We have to review the European framework for open source AI systems and offensive capabilities. We have to establish a European framework for military reasons, particularly in order to be able to use artificial intelligence effectively. And we need the resources for all of that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Neuhoff is next. Modern AI requires research at the top level, but we are suspicious of excellence, and we want social democratic average to be okay. We need to have cooperation between capital, startups, universities, and big business. But what we're doing is smothering entrepreneurship in rules. AI needs the cutting-edge personnel, but the best brains are being scared away. And the AI needs affordable energy in large amounts, but we are undermining our energy security and driving away AI through our energy bills. This sort of technology is the basis of resilience and sovereignty. If we want that resilience, we need to close the AI office, reintroduce subsidiarity, and undermine the bureaucracy model monster and keep it at arm's length.
Kalniete.
Ms. Kalniete is next.
Dear colleagues, if asked about Russia's aggression in Ukraine, ChatGPT often repeats Kremlin mantras about Nazism in Ukraine, secret US bioweapon labs, thefts of Western military support. According to the research carried out by the NewsGuard that tested 10 leading AI chatbots, it was identified that these systematically repeated untrue stories about Ukraine, and these stem from Russia. It is not an ideological or technical slip, no. It is intentional manipulation by Russia aimed at AI models to poison them with fabricated information. These Kremlin tactics are unbelievably profitable. This kind of information hybrid war costs only about €1 billion per year. Meanwhile, the military budget requires instead 190 billion investment. The Russian manipulations are more than just an issue for the cybersecurity. It threatens the European democracy, our information space, and hearts and minds of Europeans. To protect our population, the information security needs to be turned into a basic requirement. Europe has to strengthen the transparency standards of the data fed to the AI models, and we need to support the independent supervision of the AI development. Thank you.
Dear colleague, do you accept a blue card, Mrs. Kalniete? Dear colleague, do you accept a blue card by Mrs. Grappini? 543.
Mulțumesc, voi vorbi în limba română.
Thank you, I will speak Romanian.
Discutăm despre...
I'm here. We are talking about advanced AI systems in the European Union and about the way we can protect ourselves. The debate showed us that we are dealing with lots of vulnerabilities. In the end, AI needs to be based on well-trained human resources, as we said here. Do you believe that if we are to apply the law for artificial intelligence starting in August, we will be able to face these challenges? And what are the steps that the Commission needs to take in order to be resilient and in order to be able to no longer depend on imports in the EU?
Unfortunately, the legislation process always stays behind the scientific facts and the societal developments, and therefore I'm not sure that the law that we will implement in a very short period of time will be able to guarantee our protection against these difficulties that you mentioned and against the development challenges that we encounter regarding the AI. We live in times of great revolutionary changes. This is the largest industrial revolution, similar to the one that changed the world previously.
Thank you. Mr. Viganin is next.
Dear colleagues, artificial intelligence is transforming our economies, our security environment, and our democratic societies in an unprecedented speed. Europe must lead not only in innovation, but also in responsibility and resilience. The AI Act is an important step because it puts fundamental rights, transparency, human oversight, and cybersecurity at the center of advanced AI systems. But frontier AI systems can become tools for cyber attacks, disinformation, and attacks against critical infrastructure. Europe, therefore, needs stronger preparedness, closer coordination between cybersecurity authorities, industry and researchers, and greater investment in trusted European AI capabilities and digital sovereignty. We must also strengthen cooperation with like-minded partners to improve cyber resilience and respond to AI-enabled threats. At the same time, the EU should take the lead globally in shaping international rules and principles for trustworthy and secure AI. And finally, if we are serious about enforcement, the AI Office must evolve into a fully-fledged European agency with the resources and expertise needed to monitor, assess, support and control the development of advanced AI systems. Thank you.
Next.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mr. Vallée.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you very much, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen. I get an impression that in France nobody cares, but in fact it's a very important point. I see Mrs. Keller. Go on, smile. The farmers are outside and it's sunny. So we're looking at maybe 1 million people over the last couple of years who've had their data leaked. I don't know if you know Beachbud, who is a 14-year-old adolescent who managed to hack in to the agency that produces ID cards, passports and driving licenses. So today he is not just an expert in IT, he's managed to hack into premier sites in France where they get their ID documents from. Same in the police, where we're looking at official sites that are not protected well enough. So I think we need to have a plan in place to protect data. Then when it comes to sporting occasions as well, look at the databases where people have seen data leaked, which means that people who have arms licenses have had their data leaked. We're talking about quite a number of French citizens, but also across Europe as well. Looking at the fact that we can't counter these data attacks, we need to have a genuine policy to deal with this and data security to really counter it. Ms. Keller, I think you'd look much nicer if you smiled. Mr. Pipere is next.
The EU depends on online technology developed in non-EU countries. The future of the European security is no longer decided on the borders, but in data centers and in AI labs. But access to technology and financing is limited and unequal when it comes to the member states. We can already feel the two-speed Europe here. This fracture is going to determine huge problems when it comes to security. European resilience cannot be limited to certain member states, only some member states. Romania is the victim of a European paradox. We produce and still have human intelligence that aims at technology, but we are exporting it massively. We are good to create technology, but we are not good enough to be a technological pole in Europe, because we have incompetent leaders here in the EU. Thank you.
Ms. Hahn is next.
So we're seeing how quickly how this fast AI is undermining or just going right through the cybersecurity systems that are there. So I think this doesn't mean that we're moving in the direction of some sort of authoritarian system taking over. And what we need now is a change in course. Look on new innovation, on investment and technological sovereignty. We can't simply be spectators watching AI development throughout the world, because cybersecurity means security, the ability there. Protecting our critical infrastructure has to be protected by the best technology. We can't be dependent on authoritarian states. We have to have less bureaucracy. We need a capital markets union. We need a lot of investment for AI so that Europe can be on the forefront as well, provide innovation as well, and see what the possibilities and what the opportunities are on that front. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mathieu is next.
So a girl posts a beach photo of herself on Insta, and weeks later, she's receiving naked pictures of herself, AI generated. This happened to 20 girls in Spain. That happened to Steffi Merci in Belgium multiple times. Did, colleagues, happen to 1 million children in 2025 alone. That is one child in every classroom. So across Europe, people are waking up to find their voice and their body weaponized by AI without their consent. And luckily, Europe is finally banning these apps in December. But we had to fight for it, because some wanted loopholes, some thought that the profits of big tech were more important than protecting our children. And that's what terrifies me, because we are about to make the exact same mistake when it comes to our cybersecurity. The advanced AI models that were released in April can discover vulnerabilities that have gone undetected for 15 years. They can enable attacks at a scale that we've never seen. So if the hesitation on banning deepfakes is actually leaving our women and children not protected and exposed, well, then the hesitation on cybersecurity leaves everybody exposed. So colleagues, let's not make that same mistake again. Thank you.
Danke. Nächster Redner ist der Kollege.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly is the next speaker.
As advanced AI evolves at breakneck speed, Europe faces a defining test. Innovation must strengthen our security, not undermine it. We see the massive benefits of AI every day in Ireland, driving our tech sector and transforming healthcare. But we cannot afford to be blind to the unprecedented cybersecurity risks. Sophisticated AI is already being weaponized. It accelerates cyber attacks and scams, automates disinformation, and targets critical infrastructure with unimaginable speed. For Ireland, as a primary digital and data hub for Europe, the stakes could not be higher. A threat to our networks is a threat to the entire European single market. While the EU has led the way with AI Act and new cyber regulations, laws alone are not a shield. We need concrete action. That means deep cross-border intelligence sharing, heavy investment in our cyber defence capabilities, and ironclad protection for vital sectors like energy, finance and hospitals. Artificial intelligence is the single biggest opportunity, but also the single biggest challenge of our lifetimes.
We have to be aware day and night on this important issue.
Nächster Redner ist der Kollege Cepeda.
Thank you. Mr. Cepeda is the next speaker.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Madam President. AI today is a tool of war. Europe is at war. We can't ignore that. If you look at the last summit between the US and China, and Mr. Xi Jinping talked about Thucydides' trap, and that has a great deal with geo-reality and little or nothing to do with what Europe's discussing. It's not enough to talk about Anthropic and models. Clearly, Anthropic was dropped from the US defense system. But what we should be talking about is a European sovereignty system built on 4 pillars. Energy. Gigafactories are going to need huge amounts of energy. 2, computing capacity. If not, we'll go nowhere. Data management. And then the models that we're talking about. Anthropic is one example. But we could talk about OpenAI. And the truth is that we're talking about what the US and the West is doing. What's China up to?
Spricht der Kollege Bzoch.
Thank you, Mr. Bzoch.
Děkuji za slovo, paní předsedající.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President, Commissioner. Today we're talking about cybersecurity in the era of advanced AI models. It's correct that we are having this debate. It's not just an economic instrument, but it's an instrument of geopolitics, of defense. But let's be frank. The EU is lagging behind in this area. When we're introducing new systems, it takes years. When there's a new threat, we prepare action plans, strategies, or creating working groups. But our adversaries do not wait. Cyber attacks take place in a matter of weeks, not months, and we need to learn some important lessons. Centralization will not increase our defense. Member states very often act faster because they have their own experience, and they should have their own competences. We cannot only regulate. The implementation is very often lacking. We need to have more human resources and also data sharing of different institutions. And thirdly, we need to support innovations. If we have so much red tape for our companies that so many of the innovations take place elsewhere, it will not increase our sovereignty and our security. We need to be prepared because what is critical is who acts fastest. Thank you.
Dankeschön.
Well, thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Buchenski from the ECR. Thank you.
Pani Przewodnicząca, Szanowni
President, ladies and gentlemen, yes, we do need cybersecurity, and yes, we have to face the challenges of the future, because the world that is changing in front of our eyes is becoming more and more chaotic and full of threats. But I regret that more than half of this plenary chamber does not see how grotesque this discussion is, because almost half of you would like to fight the US, China, to be rivals of Elon Musk's, etc. But you do not see that it is your legislation, the tons of paper and documents that you have produced are causing lack of our competitiveness and lack of the modern technologies here. We are discussing cybersecurity, but in Brussels, sometimes we cannot vote because the voting buttons do not work. So look at the IT systems in the European Parliament. How effective are they every day? This is a joke. You're not able to give us cybersecurity in Europe. Thank you.
Our next speaker is colleague Brandstetter.
Danke, Frau Präsidentin, Frau.
Thank you very much, President, Commissioner as well. We all agree that AI is creating a new world order, and we have to do more so that we don't fall behind. The good news was presented by the Commissioner. 45,000 startups in Europe, 8,000 that are dealing with artificial intelligence, but we need capital markets unit, and we have to really catch up with the United States. Many researchers aren't happy with the situation in the United States with Trump. We could attract them to Europe, and we have to see clearly that cyber security and cyber attacks can really undermine our industry, and the cyber warfare of Russia as well, using AI and disseminating fake information as well. These are issues that we have to deal with, and they're undermining our infrastructure as well. We have to be independent and sovereign. And I've heard from the far right here that a lot about national sovereignty. How is that going to work, actually? We need European sovereignty, and it is for that we have to work concertedly. Let's work together for our Europe. Thank you very much. We can make it. We can do it.
Dear colleagues, dear Commissioner, the newest AI model from Anthropic, Mythos, is so effective at finding weaknesses in software that they decided to only give access to a few companies from the US. In the wrong hands, it can be used to exploit digital vulnerabilities, like attacking bank accounts or health records at a speed and scale never seen before. Another wake-up call for Europe. Anyone who believes the best AI will always be available to us is making a dangerous assumption. As soon as AI models become strategic assets for cybersecurity, defense, or economic power, access will become selective. If we do not have AI made in Europe, if we do not control our own digital infrastructure, we cannot control our own future. The next AI model might not be kept under lock and key. It might be pointed to us. So I ask you, Commissioner, to act quickly and build EU-owned infrastructure, data centers, cloud and compute on European soil. Invest in research and development of purpose-built AI, cybersecurity and open source standards. If we act quickly, we will still have a future made in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Jukneviciene.
Gerbiami kolegos.
Dear colleagues, experts are saying that in a few years' time, social networks, which are now used by everyone, will become history. They will be replaced with AI, with technologies we find it difficult to understand. Security experts warn us that the time will come when AI will show the world to us. And those who will control AI will control the actions of humanity. Each progress element can land on malicious hands. So we need to prepare for instrumentalization of AI. Colleagues spoke about data use, but experts warn us against data poisoning. We are happy with AI progress, but we need to be prepared for manipulation and malicious attacks. This will soon become the greatest challenge. But bans will not be enough. We need to invest heavily into the AI infrastructure. We need to take care of education of our people in AI. In Hanna Virkkunen, in the current Commission, her portfolio helps us take care of AI questions in one portfolio. Good luck, Hanna. We don't have much time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Gonçalves.
Your phone has just buzzed. Unknown number. And if your battery runs out, well, you've got problems, and you probably can't even afford the train fare home either. We are seeing sophisticated AI models that are being used for scams and cyber attacks, attacking not just the elderly in society anymore. They are a threat to the European Union. Phishing operations have increased from 12 to 54%. In industry, the cost of an attack, the average of an attack, is around 5 million euros. In total, 22% up on last year. Regulation isn't enough. We need European digital sovereignty. We need European companies. We need a code to check what is done. And Commissioner, we need investment so that we can actually ensure that not only are we deregulating, we're protecting and innovating.
Thank you very much. Next speaker was Bosnia.
Minister and dear colleagues, I would not repeat here all the threats created by artificial intelligence, nor all the opportunities it offers. But I would invite us to think about something else. Why is that every time we discuss a critically important sector, we discover that Europe is dependent? Dependent in energy, dependent in defense, dependent in critical technologies. Interesting thing is that every time I meet with industries from the countries on which we depend in the field of technology, they all say the same thing. You are excellent at regulating. We are learning from you. Kind of inspiring. But the question is, do they truly admire our regulatory approach, or do they simply understand that Europe's tendency to over-regulate everything that moves often becomes their advantage? If we want to remain secure and competitive in the age of artificial intelligence, Europe must learn not only how to regulate, but also how to create, develop, and protect its own technologies. That's the only way out of dependencies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Aguirre Martinez. A couple of years ago, we thought that the major security threats were of physical nature, then digital, now AI. It attacks infrastructure, robs information of a sensitive nature, and undermines public services as well. This is artificial intelligence. It's become a moment now of reflection about what's taking place, that we need systems in place. We don't know where to focus. Ought it be microchips? Ought it be artificial intelligence? I think indeed we have to be very clear about digital protection of our companies, our services, and we have to have a European strategy of a specific nature to deal with these particular threats from artificial energy and to create a system, a European system, in order to reduce external dependence as well. This is an opportunity for Euskadi and for Europe as well. We have to protect our infrastructures. What this means essentially is moving forward. It doesn't mean closing off Europe. It means going hand in hand, going together with the rest of the world in order to deal with these very, very serious challenges that create serious instabilities as well, instability overall.
Cyberspace has become a grounds where we have permanent threats. Our healthcares, democratic institutions, the daily life of citizens is affected every day. Their data, their economy, essential services. And since AI came into the equation, we're seeing this going on to a new level. In the area of defense, it's particularly alarming. State actors are now using advanced AI models to identify vulnerabilities in our military systems, disrupt our communications, and carry out disinformation exercises at an industrial level. Europe hasn't just stood and watched. The security package of January, the strengthening of NISA, the AI Act, all of these are a serious basis. We've built a framework, but the framework won't be enough if we're dependent on technology we don't master. Strategic autonomy of Europe isn't an option. It's a necessity because our adversaries aren't setting the same limits on themselves. Our rules are a strength. They should never be a weakness. We need to massively invest in our expertise, in our own capacity, in our digital sovereignty. Legislating today is not enough. We need to anticipate and act. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Eriksson.
Thank you very much. So to catch up is not really a vision, is it? Especially when that person you're going to catch up on is no role model. Looking at the immoral wealth that's being garnered by US tech bros is not really what we should be looking to. We need our own alternative in Europe, but Europe shouldn't develop their own tech bros. We need to use technology for the benefit of mankind, not so that a few people can roll it in the money while the rest of us have our emotional capacity drawn out by scrolling from morning till night. We need more freedom, leisure, happiness in everybody's everyday lives. We don't want to generate new manacles. We need to make sure that we get out of this come out of this technological revolution with a better society for all.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Kanko.
Thank you, Madam President, dear colleagues, Madam Commissioner. The Mythos affair showed what we already knew, that sadly, the EU lives in the stone age of AI. Very embarrassing. Our mindset is that of bureaucracy and of isolationism, that we confuse with sovereignty. We fail to invest in energy innovation. We struggle to reduce bureaucracy. There is no vision. We act as if advanced AI is the enemy, but it is not. Criminals are. EU paralysis is. As Mistral founder Arthur said recently, Europe doesn't have many strengths. Heavy regulation is a burden, and the market takes shape too slowly. Therefore, those who can invest are Americans, not only because they have a market, but also because they believe in the future. Whereas we have a fixed mindset about technology, our AI office is understaffed, underpowered, and already lagging behind the technology it's supposed to face. And meanwhile, the Commission is busy drafting safeguards for the future, as if AI is some sci-fi promise, instead of the tool already patching our security breaches today. That's not leadership. That's like building a smoke detector in a burning house. Yes, AI is a double-edged sword. Let's cut bureaucracy so that we can use the right edge. Thank you.
Dankeschön. Nächste Rednerin ist die Kollegin.
Thank you very much. Colleague Keller is our next speaker.
Merci.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner, Madam Minister, colleagues. I welcome this debate on cybersecurity and preparedness in the EU faced with advanced AI models. That's vital for our security, our sovereignty. AI is both a massive opportunity and a major challenge for cybersecurity. If we want to protect our infrastructure, our institutions and our citizens, then Europe has to have a solid, ambitious framework underpinning that, because even though AI is not fully implemented, the Commission's already talking about deregulating through the omnibus, lowering standards. That's not the right direction. When we adopted the AI Act, we were proud of being pioneers of a clear, ethical, innovative framework vis-à-vis security. Now we are running the risk of weakening that level of ambition under the pressure of certain lobbies, privileging short-term interests. There was some progress in the omnibus, the ban on notification apps, but that can't mean that this stops being a framework which is protective. We want to be demanding, Commissioner, yes to innovation, yes to a strong innovation-based Europe, but no to weakening the security, protecting our citizens.
Colleague Adamovich is our next speaker.
Madam President, Madam Commissioner, democracy, as we watch it, is being attacked, and we do not much. AI is used as a weapon in the hands of our enemies. They target critical infrastructure, and which is most complicated, they can even attack electoral processes through fake news that reach our citizens within seconds. Oligarchs, Russian special services can actually impact the results of electoral processes without actually manipulating the process itself. What we should do is focus on how we spend our money. We spend hundreds and thousands for tanks and weapons, but our enemies attack our hospitals, energy networks, and electoral processes. And there is one country that knows this very well, a country that protects the frontiers of Europe, that has to fight thousands of cyber attacks from Russia. I'm talking about Poland, my country. We have received so many attacks but we are still standing because we have a very strong army that we've created ourselves to counter cyber attacks. But the question is, how long will we be kept standing? How long Europe will be standing? How long democracy will be standing if we won't fight this enemy together? Because unfortunately, AI is a super weapon in the hands of this enemy.
Our next speaker, colleague Dinku.
Madam President, Madam Commissioner, cybersecurity and AI are a new strategic frontier for Europe. Digital attacks do not only target democratic processes, but also our citizens' minds. At the same time, advanced AI systems enable really efficient information manipulation. So we need at least 3 concrete measures. First of all, creating a European mechanism for fast response to major cybernetic attacks against infrastructure. Second, common investments into a common European framework for AI in order to reduce external dependencies. And thirdly, an obligatory EU audit for algorithmic amplification systems on tech platforms. Right now, we're only regulating content, but we need to regulate these algorithms as well. We need this in this field. Thank you.
Our next speaker is colleague Verica.
Thank you. To President, colleagues, we all see benefits from digitalization in different sectors. Health is not exemption. We enjoy speed, comfort, and efficiency, research possibilities that digitalization brings to our lives. But at the same time, we became dependent on technologies that are vulnerable in many ways. Automated cyber attacks, data exploitation, manipulation and bias, possible weaponization of artificial intelligence. These are just a few examples that demonstrate the possible spectrum of the security problems we are already facing or will face in the close future. Therefore, there is a strong need for preparedness in cybersecurity. Robust security frameworks, regular testing and validation, data privacy and protection, collaboration and information sharing, adaptive response plans, research and innovation in this field. As AI systems become more advanced, the landscape of cybersecurity risks expands, requiring proactive, adaptive, and comprehensive preparedness strategies. Thank you.
Dankeschön. Nächste Rednerin ist die Kollegin Veriga.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Joveva.
Joveva, I'm sorry. Okay. My fault. Excuse me. Thank you. Hvala.
Thank you. If today someone can paralyze the hospital, undermine confidence in elections, or trigger panic among millions with a single algorithm, then this means that cybersecurity is no longer just a tech issue, is it? And the question is, who will set the rules in the future, democratic institutions or opaque systems without accountability? When a hacker used publicly available AI system to hack into several Mexican government agencies and steal sensitive data, this should have been a wake-up call for all of us, and the threats have only escalated afterwards. AI systems are a tool, and like any tool, they can protect or destroy. We can no longer afford to be naive. Of course, European legislation is essential, but it will not protect our democracies on its own. We need more European capacity, more investment in cyber resilience, and we should be less dependent on foreign tech giants. We do have talents, companies, and now is the time to stop merely subsidizing European technologies and companies. We should start using them, because if technology advances faster than we can protect democracy, then the question will no longer be what AI is capable of. The question will be, will we still be deciding about it, or will AI be deciding about us? Thank you.
Our next speaker is colleague Ratas.
Dear colleagues, Commissioner, Minister, today we are facing a completely new reality in cybersecurity. The new AI model Mythos was considered so powerful and potentially dangerous that its developers decided not to release it publicly. What makes this especially alarming is the speed and precision with this system can operate. AI is not now capable of detecting and combining hidden software vulnerabilities at a pace that the human eye and human mind simply cannot follow. Europe must be prepared for this new reality. We need stronger cooperation between our member states and faster sharing of cybersecurity information. We also need clear European rules for the use of AI in critical sectors such as energy, transport, healthcare and digital infrastructure. For industry, especially in smaller and highly digitalized countries like Estonia, cybersecurity is essential. A single AI-driven cyber attack cannot stop production, damage supply chains or expose sensitive data. Public services must also be protected. Hospitals, schools, emergency services and public administration cannot afford long interruption of cyber attack against sensitive systems. Thank you.
Vielen Dank. Nächster Redner ist
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Andriukaitis.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, Minister, colleagues, it is obvious that the European Union must remain resilient, secure and prepared in the face of rapidly advanced AI technologies. Our democratic institutions, critical infrastructure, healthcare systems and citizens must be protected against a new risks and challenges emerging from increasing sophisticated AI systems. We must strengthen Europe's cyber resilience against the misuse of advanced AI systems, including disinformation campaigns, automated surveillance, threat targeting critical infrastructure and democratic processes, health threats posed by AI, cyber attacks against hospitals. We must strengthen NIS2, turning it into a fully functioning agency. We must establish comprehensive cyber defense shield and infrastructure. But democratic and parliamentary oversight, human accountability, transparency and robust safeguards must remain central to any deployment of AI in security-related contexts. The use of AI in cybersecurity and defense does not undermine fundamental rights, social rights and democratic control. Thank you so much.
Vielen Dank.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Ciriani.
Grazie, Presidente.
Thank you very much. Now, I don't think we have to fear progress. We have to manage it to make sure that technology is at the service of humanity. The risks posed by artificial intelligence are clear for all. Deep fakes, cyber attacks, large-scale vulnerabilities, attacks on critical infrastructure and services. But we're not just talking about digital security. We're talking about security at the national level. And we're talking about hybrid warfare. Wars are being conducted. Attacks are being carried out without moving a single tank. It's necessary to have regulatory tools, but that's not it alone. The political point is this: Europe cannot become a continent that regulates technologies that it doesn't produce. Our global competitors are moving quickly ahead with innovative models, and we're lagging behind. We need advanced European models for artificial intelligence. We need clouds, secure ones. We need computing power, and we need cybersecurity. This is the new geopolitical forefront that exists. That is what is necessary for our independence. And we need to reassure our primacy with proper technology in place and policies as well. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Johan Kutrina.
Thank you, Madam Vice President of the Commission, Virkkunen. Stephen Hawking, the physicist, said that AI could be the best or worst thing to hit humanity. And today, we are seeing cyber attacks being rolled out more and more sophisticated, more quick, and more complex. There are no borders. With Anthropic, the American company with Mythos, people are talking about a cyber atomic bomb because this is able to infiltrate and orchestrate massive cyber attacks in infrastructure such as banks, hospitals and transport. Pandora's box has been opened and there will be more powerful tools coming down the line comparable with cyber arms. Europe cannot be satisfied to be a digital colony. We can see that hostile agents and criminals are lining up. So when are we going to have a genuine AI Act and sovereignty? Because that is what sovereignty is about, Madam Vice President of the Commission. Europe has to recognise advances in AI as being critical in the same way we look at telecommunications or energy. We have to have an autonomous cybersecurity defence in Europe of our own, piloted by AI to defend ourselves.
Kollege Mandl.
Our next speaker is colleague Mandl.
Madam President, Madam Vice President, Henna Virkkunen, ladies and gentlemen. Austria's former Chancellor, Wolfgang Schüssel, who is being awarded the European Order of Merit today, yesterday was speaking in the European Parliament, and he pointed out that almost every day in Europe, there are authorities at every level, local, regional, obviously at national level and at European level, are being targeted with cyber attacks. Cyber attacks, which we need to take seriously. Our European civilization, democracy, and dignity is being attacked with digital means. So now, and as of now, we're seeing AI being deployed as well. Unfortunately, we've become the continent of consumers when it comes to AI, but Europe has to become the continent of innovation and production. So there's got our work cut out there. We don't want to isolate ourselves from other parts of the world. On the contrary, we want to cooperate, but we need to work on the basis of a strong, robust, and self-assured basis. So a number of measures that have to be taken to achieve that. First of all, investments that have to be freed up through having an internal market for capital. We need to train young people. We need to make sure that girls and women are interested more in STEM subjects and professions to tap the potential that's essential for European security and our prosperity towards brighter future.
Colleague Nemetz, our next speaker.
The EU is facing ever more sophisticated cyber threats, attacks on hospitals, energy networks, and public institutions. This is no longer an exception. This is new reality. And now artificial intelligence creates deep fakes. It attacks politicians, journalists, and the civil society. But this is not a black and white picture. AI is a threat for our security, but at the same time, advanced AI systems can pinpoint critical points in digital IC systems that were not discovered by traditional systems. So AI is both a threat and opportunity. So this is why Europe needs a coordinated approach towards cybersecurity, because threats do not know any borders. This is why we need stronger EU cooperation, better exchange of information, data, and more sovereignty. And protecting rights and innovations are equal, because if we undermine security, this will be a problem. We have to be a place of trust, we have to be a leading actor, and we have to serve people and not the interests of the largest tech corporations around the world. Thank you.
Kollege Radev.
Thank you. Mr. Radev is the next speaker.
Commissioner, colleagues, when we speak about cybersecurity, we no longer speak about the security of certain computer systems. We speak about whether transport will work, whether the electricity supply system will work, whether hospitals would be protected, whether banks can survive attacks, whether democracy can resist manipulation. Today, thanks to artificial intelligence, the damage that used to require armies can be done extremely easily. That is why systems that could help with rapid reaction during situations of crisis could also be the source of huge threats. We should not have to choose between innovation and security, but it should be made clear that all of this depends not only on technologies, it depends on people. There is no leadership if we don't invest in the future leaders. We need more expert knowledge in artificial intelligence. We need European expertise, cooperation between universities and industry, and focus on specific areas. Europe should not rely on foreign technologies in areas that are directly related to sovereignty and security, because this would be a strategic risk. Thank you.
Collega Christea.
Mr. Christian is the next speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Stimați colegi,
Colleagues, sovereignty is a quality of the powerful, of those who have technology that enables them to see the reality better than we can, and to see things and do things that we cannot. So sovereignty is the capacity to do things on your own, do the things that your security depends on. Can you be sovereign when you don't have your own strategic technological companies? The technology that is developed by humans serves the interest of those humans and of those companies. We are not part of this picture. These are not our companies. Are we sovereign when the information that reaches your citizens and that determines their behavior is filtered by algorithms belonging to companies from outside the EU? If we do not understand this, the foreign technological companies are going to determine what happens here and what happens to us, while we decide what we are going to do with the lids on our plastic bottles.
Saudargas.
Mr. Saudargas.
Thank you, President, dear Commissioner, dear colleagues. The first and perhaps biggest challenge for European cybersecurity is that Europe is falling behind the United States and China in the development of advanced AI technologies. Last year, 5,000 major cyber incidents were recorded across Europe, and behind this activity, we usually see Russia and China. This is not only a technological challenge, but rather security and defense. Lithuania and other countries on the eastern border have experienced for years cyber attacks, disinformation, and hybrid operations against our institutions and critical infrastructure. In Lithuania alone, authorities recorded nearly 4,000 cyber incidents last year, a 63% increase compared to the previous years, amounting to more than 10 cyber incidents every single day. And now advanced AI systems are making these threats even more dangerous. At the same time, Europe still depends heavily on non-European AI technologies. We are strong in regulation, but not in capability. Legislation such as the European Chips Act should help Europe strengthen its own AI capacities. We need European innovation, European computing capacity, and European expertise in cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. Our task is not only to regulate existing, but to boost creation of our own technologies, strengthen Europe's security and resilience. Thank you.
Dankeschön. Als nächstes spricht die Kollegin.
Thank you. Mr. Amacheri is the next speaker. President, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about digital security and AI, we're talking about the freedom for Europe. It's not just a question of a market for technology developed by others. We have to develop European infrastructure that can protect the economy and citizens. We need to have the courage to invest in areas that may become the new technological frontier of the continent. The south of Italy, for example, we have a lot of competence in universities and research institutes on cyber security and innovation. We have a lot of young talent which Europe can't afford to lose anymore. In the south of Italy, south of Europe, focusing there can help the European Union as a whole. We can build a Europe that's less dependent, safer, and more united. Artificial intelligence isn't just a technological challenge. It's a challenge that is of political in nature. And we must be able to transform our peripheries in new centers for the future.
Castillo Vera.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo Vera.
President, Commissioner, recently we've had this development of AI with extraordinary capability, systems that can identify software irregularities or malfunctions, mechanisms that simply didn't exist before. So we're speaking about a quantum leap in artificial intelligence with a speed which is exponential, unknown in the past. Now the discussion on regulation of AI has focused on issues such as transparency or algorithmic risks and other issues of that nature. But these developments are in a new context. There are new factors and elements. We find ourselves in the situation now of the management of dual use as well, with direct applications which involve security and affect the daily lives of citizens and companies as enterprises as well. We need a strategic system in place. The European Union has to define its position in order to adapt itself to this new reality, transcending borders. We need adequate responses, and this all has to take place at the European level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Heider. Thank you, Madam President, Vice President, Commission. This war is not over. That's what the Elon Musk's lawyer said after the 114 billion euro legal action was dismissed. And this shows that AI is no longer just about technological and economic interests. It's about a lot more. It's about power, control, and security. The computer systems now are investigating themselves for vulnerabilities through AI, and we're seeing a genuine threat to Europe because of this. And this is why the European Union has to become cyber secure. Europe was in the vanguard when it came to AI development. We still have the development and capabilities to develop AI, so we shouldn't be scared of AI, not least because looking at the most advanced AI systems, they are things that we need to become independent of because they're not from Europe and they're obscure. And we cannot assume that the rule of law will apply in the digital realm as well. We shouldn't see legal vacuums in the AI area and should not replace democratic checks either. Let's implement the AI Act, Data Protection and Cyber Resilient Act in a consistent way. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Mr. Calfon.
Dear colleagues, Mythos has made clear what we refused to see. Now there are AI models that are capable of just taking a couple of hours to break thousands of cyber defenses across the world. We are under permanent threat of hybrid war from Russia at a point in time where the EU has been working on the AI Act and SAFE. We need to stop being naive. The new regulation on cybersecurity should ban hostile states' access to our strategic and digital infrastructure. Otherwise, it's not worth the paper it's written on. Space Act and other legislation does reduce the risk, but we need to apply stress tests to all vulnerable infrastructure. We failed on developing AI to defend ourselves against the AI threat, but we mustn't fail on the next stage, the kind of digital revolution. We need investment through the Competitiveness Fund that will be up to the task.
Thank you very much. There are 7 requests under Catch the Eye. We can take them all if you all keep to the speaking time, please, because we have a ceremony that we need to prepare for. So please stick to your time. We'll start with Mr. Scherber, Mr. Jokovic is next.
Szanowna Pani Przewodnicząca, Pani...
President, Commissioner, a modern military mobility cannot only be fast, but it also be safe, resilient, and ready to act faced with threats. So it's not only roads, bridges, and railways. It is also about making sure that we are safe and secure, that we have safety and security for connections, for critical infrastructure, which will be resistant to threats. That's why the advancement of Polish General Molenda in NATO, who will be now responsible for cybersecurity, is of great importance. It proves that Poland is a leader of cybersecurity in the army. That is why I will make sure that the new regulations that we have introduced also such regulations that would support us to protect us from cyber attacks.
Mr. Jakovic and then Mr. Tinkinen.
Hvala vam, predsjedavajuća. Napredni sustavi...
Thank you. The advanced systems of artificial intelligence, like Mythos, are a new army of political power. These systems are able to identify vulnerabilities and attack critical infrastructure at a speed for which we are not ready yet. Therefore, the initiatives announced by the European Commission are welcome. The cybersecurity is not a question of protection of networks. We are talking about the protection of our sovereignty and the safety of our citizens. When hospitals are paralyzed by cyber attacks and when data from patients are stolen, we are talking about the direct attacks on our citizens. We need to invest in the cyber security and technological sovereignty. This is no longer a choice. Today, resilience means power, and Europe needs to be ready. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tinkinen, and then Ms. Miranda Pass afterwards.
Dear President, artificial intelligence has changed our lives forever in both good and bad. Unfortunately, Europe has fallen behind its competitors, but this should not come as a surprise. Our unhinged obsession with regulation has brought us to this point. Now we are afraid of what others are creating. We are in a situation where American companies are able to produce models with supreme hacking abilities. We may not like it, but you cannot deny that it's an asset for them. I agree that such models should face proper inspection and monitoring, but I cannot help thinking if without all the regulation, European companies could have created something that the rest of the world would be willing to inspect. It's not the company's fault, it's the EU decision makers that have made Europe the loser. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miranda Pass now, and then Mr. Gratsoulis will be after.
Gracias, Presidenta.
Thank you, Madam President. Europe is vulnerable. The advance of AI provokes uncertainty and threatens in my country around 270,000 people, around a tenth of the population, 1 in 4 jobs, 38% of jobs, in fact. This is not new. Technology is not neutral. We also need to look at the social dimension. Tech companies are leading to job losses across the world that are huge, and we need to properly analyse this and then protect our citizens along with providing cybersecurity. In Europe, we need to have control over technology, not the opposite. IT was considered a public service, and so AI could be if it is properly regulated, and so we can avoid people losing their jobs and their jobs being outsourced. And it's likely that AI will affect women more. Social and economic structures are therefore going to lead to discriminatory models, and we are vulnerable to the malicious use of AI, disinformation and fraud.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gratsoulis, and then Ms. Sorel will be after.
As I have been listening to this debate, I couldn't quite figure out whether I am in the Russian parliament or in the European parliament. We are fighting against the artificial intelligence. Russia does the same thing. They have banned Telegram, Signal, other applications, and we do the same. Instead of developing the artificial intelligence, we are just following into Russia's footsteps. We're trying to introduce censorship. There are two countries in the world that are the pioneers in the artificial intelligence area, Russia and China. Perhaps we should, China and the United States, I'm sorry, perhaps we should follow the example of the United States and not Russia, because otherwise we'll end up in the situation in which Russian citizens find themselves. They cannot pay with their payment cards, they cannot buy their food, they cannot stay in touch. So let's rethink our values.
Die Kollegin Sorel und
Ms. Sorel, and then finally Ms. Glavak.
Madame la Ministre.
Madam Minister, Madam Vice President, we know what our vulnerabilities are, but we're still concentrating on regulation and defence when we should be going on to the offensive. What's at stake is clear. Reducing our dependence on third countries, particularly the US, for technical solutions, for security solutions, and for data storage in the cloud. We need to invest hugely in this sector and boost the creation of startups, which can then be scaled up across the world. But technology on its own won't be enough. Our genuine wealth lies in our engineers and the talent that we train. Too many of them leave Europe to strengthen American companies, and what do we do to retain them or to attract them back? Too little. We need to create an environment which inspires ambition, trust, and pride in being Europe, in being European. It's by doing that we can meet the strategic challenges we're facing and that we can continue to build our sovereignty.
Thank you very much. Ms. Glavak, finally.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues. It is quite evident that today we are speaking about the backside of this coin, how AI models are changing the cyber threats. Cybercrime is based on stealing data, using our data. It is clear that Europe has to be digitally sovereign so that it can respond to these security threats. To all the skeptics who participated in today's discussion, I would like to say that the own development of AI and joint security capacities have to rely on the coordination between member states. AI today is what rocket systems are on the battlefield. They hit the critical infrastructure without even entering the country. Here we need to be ready and resistant. We have to be ready with our experts' plans, and we have to have quick coordination before the attacks, and we have to be resilient. We have to be resilient so that our infrastructure recovers. Thank you.
Executive Vice President.
Madam Executive Vice President of the Commission, Hanna Virkkunen, has the floor.
Madam Chair, Presidency, honourable members, thank you for this very active debate. It really shows that the topic is very timely and requires our attention, because in nowadays world, cybersecurity is a very crucial core part of our overall security. And in an increasingly AI-driven world, cybersecurity advancements, but also the threats, they now unfold at a machine speed. And the situation demands that we also match this base in our preparedness and in our resilience. Today, our legislation provides us with the legal framework and also the operational tools needed to confront these risks. But it now needs to be fully implemented. And in the same time, we have to continue to building our own European capabilities. The European Commission will deploy all relevant instruments in collaboration with our agencies, with our member states, and of course with our critical infrastructure companies. And the Commission remains fully committed to closely monitoring the evolving implications of frontier AI for the cybersecurity of our critical infrastructure and supply chains as well, and with the support of this House also to advance the necessary work to address them.
Herzlichen Dank.
Thank you very much. Now, on behalf of the Council, Minister for European Affairs, Ms. Rauna, you have the floor.
President, honourable members, Vice President, thank you for this important and very active and engaging debate. I believe there is a broad agreement on the need for all stakeholders, including EU institutions, member states and the industry, to closely cooperate in the development, testing and use of advanced AI systems. While we all acknowledge the potential risks that these systems can bring, it is also absolutely necessary to explore their potential benefits for our cybersecurity. The Cyprus presidency is fully committed to continue advancing and strengthening cooperation on cybersecurity, protecting our critical infrastructure and reinforce our collective resilience. In this regard, the Council and the Member States will continue to work closely with the European Parliament, with the Commission in this joint effort as we build our technological sovereignty. Thank you very much.
Herzlichen Dank, Frau Staatsministerin.
Thank you very much, Secretary of State. Thank you, colleagues, for an interesting debate. This brings the debate to a close. We adjourn for a couple of minutes now.